Hello, Internet. My name is Ryan Ingram, and today we're going to be talking about how to find a mentor in 2020. Recently, I recorded a video about becoming a millionaire under 30, and in that video, the fifth thing that I recommended and the thing that I think is most important is finding a mentor. Now, unfortunately, I don't think I gave that topic justice in the last 2-3 minutes of that video, so I wanted to make an entire video dedicated to how to go about finding a mentor. So I've identified 5 steps that you can take today to help find a mentor. And be sure to stick around for all 5 because the 5th one is the one I consider to be my secret sauce. Okay, so the first thing that you want to do when you're looking for a mentor is you want to identify a problem. When you're looking for a mentor, it's a little bit more complicated than saying, hey, I see that you're successful. I also want to be successful. Will you please teach me how? That's not necessarily setting yourself up for success because that's too broad and there's not enough structure to it. So even if you got that mentor to agree to it, then you're probably not going to succeed or get nearly as much out of it that you want because there just aren't enough parameters or enough structure. So even if you were to do something also broad and take a broad step of action, like let's just meet once a month for coffee, then sure, you might form a phenomenal relationship out of it, but you're not necessarily setting yourself up for success because it is just a little bit too broad. So you want to identify a problem. Now, since the majority of my videos here on the channel are about real estate investing here in Ohio, then I'm going to go ahead and walk you guys through how within 3 years I was able to be new to Ohio. I moved here from North Carolina and then establish a real estate portfolio of 63 doors. So the problem that I identified was that I want to be a real estate investor in Ohio, and currently I wasn't. So now that I have identified my problem, there are 3 questions that I want to ask myself. Who excels in this area? Where do they hang out? And what do they need, right? So who excels at being a real estate investor in Ohio? Well, somebody that has a bunch of real estate. All right, well, where do people with tons of real estate hang out? I, at the time, was on Bigger Pockets, and Bigger Pockets is a website full of hundreds of thousands of people that are investors or want to be investors. And on that website, there's a section for local events. So I went onto the website, I put in Dayton, and I figured out where the live event for Dayton was. So there was a monthly meetup at a restaurant here in Dayton. That's where I started. Now there was also a RIA, or a Real Estate Investors Association, that is a nationwide program, and they have several local chapters in each state. So I also got plugged into the GD-RIA, or the Greater Dayton Real Estate Investors Association, and went to those meetings. So now I figured out where they hang out, right? But I still don't have a physical person that I know of who excels at real estate investing. So as I started going around to these meetings, I was trying to figure out who are the people that truly excel? Who are the big real estate investors? Because sure, there were also a lot of people there, like me, that has no properties and would like to, but those aren't the people that I'm after to be my mentor. Naturally, the first place to start is the person that put on the meeting. So I was able to build a relationship with him. I asked him for lunch and coffee several times. He was a phenomenal person to know, and I still look to him as a mentor. I call him regularly with questions. He was also able to get me connected to 2 other people that are truly excelling at real estate investing here in the Dayton area. So I was able to answer those, and now the third thing, so I figured out who excels at it, I figured out where they hang out, and now I need to figure out what do they need. Because as great as it would be just to insert myself under their wing and just constantly learn from them, it's almost disrespectful to ask for someone's time without offering them anything in return. You most certainly in life don't want to be a time suck, especially not to your mentors who have the ability to truly change your life. So I took an inventory of all of my skills, tried to figure out what they needed and how I could help provide that. At the time, I was selling life insurance. I bought a rental property shortly after meeting these people, and I realized that I had a heck of a hard time figuring out how to write insurance on a rental property. And as I started talking to other people that attended these meetings about the same thing, I realized that everyone had this problem. real estate investing truly wasn't that clear in the insurance terms. Insurance was using one set of terminology, actual real estate investors were using another, and they just didn't mesh well with each other. So once I identified that everybody was kind of lacking in this area, then I went out and I got my property and casualty insurance license. At that point, I started trying to help answer this question for everybody. So now, anytime any of my mentors had any questions about insurance, I wanted to make sure that they knew I was there to help them with any questions that they might have. Naturally, I now insure 3 of my mentors, the 3 that have helped me change my life and figure out exactly how to become a real estate investor in Ohio. So I was able to provide something to them which they either lacked or were very unclear of, and I was able to kind of fill that void so that as I'm asking them questions, I'm not just taking tons from them, I'm also figuring out how I can give things to them. Which brings us to the second thing. The second thing is give more than you expect from them. It's very easy to come at people with tons of questions, wanting them to teach you everything, but then not providing them anything in return. You want this to not be a one-sided relationship. You want to provide them more value than you are expecting from them in return. So for example, I mentioned the insurance thing. I went out of my way to learn about this so that I had something to offer. I worked really diligently, really hard to figure out how I could add value to their business by saving them money on an annual basis. In return, just as much as I asked them questions, I was also attempting to teach them about insurance. And in this same sentiment, you want to be very specific about what it is that you are attempting to offer them that you think they need, right? You don't want this to be a very broad thing. If you've come across this video, you've likely seen several others where people like Lewis Howes or Gary Vee are talking about ways to provide value to other people. Now, one of the things that you don't want to do is just say, hey, I would love to help you any way that I can. Hey, what do you need? Hey, I'm willing to work for you for free. That's one that I've seen a lot. And while that might work in some cases, you don't want to be that broad. Again, the more specific you can be, the better. So rather than asking them, hey, what can I do for you? How can I add value to you? Can I work for you for free? Then you need to figure out exactly what it is they need. How can you provide value to their business? How can you increase their sales? What do they have or what are they attempting to accomplish that you could insert yourself in and help them accomplish their goals? So let's say you've identified somebody that you would love for them to be your mentor. Then it would be really powerful if you figured out a way to double their business, increase their sales by 10%, and then approach them with those ideas. That would be so much more powerful. It would show them that you put in tons more effort than just the blanket, which if they're truly successful, they probably have people approaching them, asking them about mentorship very often. So you want to make sure that you stand out and that you have put tons of thought and work in the back end prior to reaching out to them. That way you can impress them, they see you as somebody that can add value to their life, and in turn, you can get the value or all of the information that you're looking out for. One of the best books of all time that have ever been written about this is by Dale Carnegie, How to Win Friends and Influence People. If you've never heard of this book, if you've never read this book, then you need to probably stop doing anything other than reading that book until you've completed it and started to apply it. Which is a phenomenal segue into the third thing, which is be specific. There is absolutely nothing more powerful than being specific and intentional. So behind everything in all of these stages and processes, you want to be as specific as possible. I recently heard a quote, I have no idea who it's from, so sorry whoever said this, but it was, to be unclear is to be unkind. You want to approach every conversation, you want to approach every offer with tons of specificity and intentionality. Because again, the more specific you are, the more structure you're providing something, you're setting both parties up for success. So going back to my example of learning to be a real estate investor in Ohio, I remember approaching all of my mentors with, hey, I have $100,000. How can I start in real estate investing? What are the things that I need to look for? What areas are good to invest in? And then after we had a relationship, I called them with specific deals. I asked them about specific properties and their thoughts around them. That way it wasn't just broad and, hey, can you help me do this? I was upfront with them and very transparent throughout the entire process. And in this, you can go ahead and assume that your mentor, his time is incredibly valuable, or her time is incredibly valuable. So you don't want to come at them with incredibly broad questions that might open up a 2-hour dialogue. You want to be as specific as possible in all of your questions and all of the scenarios that you run across this person. The fourth thing that you want to do is take action. Taking action is incredibly important. Now, if you've already done these 3 things, then you're head and shoulders above your competition already. Everybody else that is looking at your mentors for their attention and their time and their resources, you're already going to stick out. So by taking action, that's going to solidify that you are incredibly different than everybody else they've ever talked to. Because anybody that has achieved even a small amount of success, anybody that's even achieved a very small amount of success has experienced themselves pouring time and energy and tons of wisdom into someone and them doing nothing. We've all heard the saying, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. If you have gotten a mentor to impart so much wisdom to you that he led you to the water, then you owe him drinking it? Is that how I would finish that sentence in thought? This got weird. All this to say, if they have given you tons of wisdom and clarity and actionable steps, you owe it to them for all of their time to take action. There's nothing worse as someone that's trying to mentor someone, pouring so much effort into someone and just see all of it wasted. Honestly, you might even come across a lot of people that would be phenomenal mentors, but they're already jaded and they no longer want to take any time or effort into teaching anyone anything because they've been burned so many times by people just doing the absolute opposite of what they've suggested. Now, the 5th thing and last thing that you should do, and if you make it this far and if you do this 5th thing, then you will absolutely stand apart from the crowd forever and you will turn your mentors into absolute raving fans of you. And that is follow up. I have had so many incredibly successful people take time out of their incredibly busy, high-paying hours and pour wisdom into me, right? That's a time commitment. That's a giant ask, and I repay them with being specific, taking action, and then following up. Now, I honestly think that this 5th step is my secret sauce and how I stand apart from all of the people that I interact with. Whenever I first reached out to the mentor that led that group, I was so happy to call him and tell him that I just bought my first property just a few weeks after meeting him. And he said, wow, congratulations, you are one of the very few people I've spoken with that actually follows through and takes action on real estate investing. I'll never forget that phone call. He was incredibly proud. You could hear it in his voice, and I hardly knew this man. I've known him for several years now, but at the time it was just for a few weeks. All right, so that was the 5 steps on exactly how to find a mentor in 2020. I really hope that you guys enjoyed the video. If this provided any sort of value to you, please like, subscribe. And if you have any questions, comments, concerns, or just want me to talk about anything else, please let me know in the comments below or reach out to me any other way you know how. Thank you so much, guys, and I can't wait to talk to you again.